Hello everyone, welcome to TechStorm. My name is Anish Kumar, Java trainer having a 5+ years of IT experience. This is the advanced Java session 12. So today's session agenda is we will talk about the session, what is a HTTP session, what is a cross-origin resource sharing, what is a csrf. Okay, this whole thing we will basically discuss. This is the some small topics related to our project. Okay, so let's see first. So what is a sessions? So basically in Java Spring Java, that is we are currently working on the Spring Boot project. Session management is commonly concept that use the application that require user login and logout function. Because what happen when a user login into an application, okay, or log out into application, so that duration a session is created, okay, and that session is basically store the user related data like username, password, what he has searched or not searched, or that data is basically stored inside your local system, and it will store inside the cookies. Okay, so that is basically a session. A session is a server side storage of the user data during the user interact with a particular session, means how much time you are basically interacting to a one application. Okay, with the web application. Okay, it start when a user logged in and end when the user log out. When you log in log out, there will be login log out, that timing between the login log out is basically one session. Okay, and close login log out or close the browser. It helps to track the user status, means user logged in, what username, what user role, what you have searched. Because how the other application, when you have searching something you get the ad. So how basically this happened, if you have searched something and you are getting ad related to the same thing, because the cookies are basically sessions are stored in the cookies, and other things are taking your cookies, checking your cookies and showing their respective ads and everything. So that is the use of the session. A session id is assigned to each user stored in the cookies on a client side. Usually se- this is the session ID, a JSON ID. Okay, this is a JSON ID. Then on every request, this session ID is sent to a server to whenever a user is logged in, this session ID will be basically sent to a server. The server will identify the user. Okay, it is session is also used for identifying this is valid or invalid user. Okay, if invalid, it will not open, and valid it is success. So how session work in the Spring Boot project? Basically, we session is basically we use for a logged in. Okay, the user credential are of validation, means if user credential are right, valid, then you will get a success message. Okay, a session is created by using this line of code like HTTP session object equal to request dot get session. We will get the session of. Okay, then session dot set attribute means we are now setting the attribute like username equal to Anuj, and session dot set attribute we want to set in session we want to set role equal to admin. Okay, so in this way we are creating the session object first, like class name a1 equal to a. In this way, to session dot HTTP session equal to request dot get session. Then in this session object, I want to set something, get something. So session dot set attribute username equal to Anu, session dot set attribute role equal to admin. Okay, so this code basically we basically will generate in today's project. Okay, if you log in, log out with the help of session only. Okay, then first thing is the session used for user logged in. Okay, second it is used for the accessing to other page. Means when the user visit other secure endpoint, the Spring or custom filter can check the sessions. Okay, when you're moving from one page to another page, then your session ID is basically shared to that page or that application. Then it is used for logout. How if there is one session is we are working, when we want to log out, we will basically simply what do session dot destroy. Basically, it will destroy the session and you will basically log out from the particular application. The time a session is stored the data on the server per user. Usually, basically, session is stored the data on the server per user, used mainly for tracking the login status, user role, and temporary data. Okay, user role means here we are basically set attribute role equal to admin, set attribute your role equal to user, Okay, go. Where the session are used in project. Session basically used for authentication, means login, logout. Authorization means if it is project manager, admin, because admin can access all the things, user cannot access all the things. Okay, in this way, that is the authorization. Shopping card means when a particular user will enter into your what we say, Amazon, Flipkart. So every user has one session ID. If you store something in the cart while browsing, okay, that thing will be stored in the session, means what you have searched or not. Okay, then according to that, next time when you come, they will show the respective product. Okay, multi-step forms means temporarily store the user input across the step. In multi-step forms, they also use the session. In tracking activity, when monitor use activity during the session. Because when the your session is stored in the cookies, they will track with the help of the data stored in the cookies. Then we have second thing, HTTP status code. Okay. When what basically HTTP status code is, when we and Postman we are hitting some APIs, then the API is successful, we are getting 200. If API is not successful, we are getting an error. Or when we are want to access some page in browser, if we are not able to access the page, we are getting 404. So that is basically status code. Okay, so now today's we will study more about the status code. So first is that is informational status code, that is a 100 basically means continue. Okay, these are the rarely used. They just tell the client that the request was received and it is being processed. 100 means if you see somewhere is status 100, which basically means continue. Okay, server receive the request header, client should send the body. Okay, then if you get the status code related to 2, that is 200, 201, 204. So when 200 basically means success, 201 means created, 204 means not content. A successful request but no content to return. So that is a no content, 204. Then if you get 300 related status code, it basically means redirection. Okay. Redirection in like 301, that is move permanently. URL has been changed permanently. 302 founded means temporarily redirect. URL temporarily moved. 304 not modify means that the resource has not changed since the last request. Okay. So interview sometime they may ask what is 300, what is 302, rarely. Okay. Then 400 means client error, means 400 means bad request, 401 unauthorized, 403 forbidden, 404 not found. Okay, 409 conflict. So generally when page is not reloading or not accessing, we get 404 in the web browser. 500, that is a server error. Means if you see 500 is status code, internal server error. 500 to bad gateway. Okay. 500 is service unavailability. 500 for gateway timeout. Okay. So these are the different status codes which you have to know. Do not, you have to buy hard this thing, just know. Okay. Then we have response sensitivity. Means when we are developing a some method and then I want to create a response, like if it is 200 success, then I want to pass some message. Okay, if it is not success, I want to pass some message. So that request and response basically will set with the help of response entity. Okay, and it's Spring Boot response entity, and this is a generic of type T, is a powerful and flexible wrapper class used to represent the entire HTTP response. That include in this HTTP response, we have a status code like we will pass 200, okay, 404 not found, header means content type, location, in header, we will pass content type or location, body, we will pass actual what we want to return, okay, like return object, some object, return something, okay. So this is basically use of a response entity. So why we are using response entity? Because it will basically more control over the HTTP response, easily customize the status post, header and body, useful for REST APIs development where you want to return the different status codes and message. Basically, you want to customize message, you can send with the help of response entity. Okay, like here. Enforcement body when we are hitting something or not, basically we are getting here the status code. Okay, that status code we are basically want to change. Okay, so that is the thing, and we want to create our custom response. So that's why we are using a request response. Common static method of response intensity like pass is okay, where we pass body that will return 200 success messages inside the body. Then status equal to http status dot body. Okay, that is custom status with a body. Okay, no content, bad request and body return 400 bad request. No not found dot will return 404 not found. That are the different types of method. Okay, so you can see this method and search and know more about practice about this method. Okay, so this is a simple example of like we have a get mapping method. Okay, and this is an API student.id. Then public.response entity, and inside generic we have passed a student entity class of. Okay, then it will work as an object for this method, pass variable int id. So id basically we will check with the help of optional class it is returning null or not. And this is a student, it is work as an object, then a student object, then a student repository dot find by id. If a student is present, then return response entity dot okay. Okay means 200 success when it is success. When if student ID is present, then return response entity dot okay, that is success message inside success student dot get. This is a body where I am what I am getting returning student dot get. Okay, else return then status equal to http status dot not found. Okay, and in body here I will return null, nothing. If it is failed, student is not found, inside body I will return null. Okay, and I will in status code I will return http status dot not found. Okay, this is the basic way of writing the http response and response entity. Okay, and this in this way we are basically using. Okay, now we have something called header here, headers. So what is basically headers? That we pass content type and location. So a header is basically a key part of the HTTP request or response. It contains a metadata that is the additional information about the request response. Okay, but not a actual content. What is basically it means these are the types of header where we have a request header sent by the client, that is a browser postman from this using this app, a response header sent by the server to the client. Okay, so why headers are important? Header help us for authentication. Content type you can pass the content type in header. Header handle the caching, cookies, security policies, use for cross origin, API versioning, and a custom logins. Okay, so this is the use of the headers. Then what is a cross? That is a cross origin resource sharing. Basically, what cross origin resource sharing is a security feature implemented by the browser to prevent the unauthorized cross origin request. Means it basically helps us to prevent unauthorized access. It restrict the web page from making a request to the different domain. Okay, basically this course basically it restricts the web page, that is a JavaScript running on the browser, from making the request to the different domain, port, protocol than the one in the server of the web page. So why the basically course is needed? Example like we have a front end applications have someone type some API, and then backend application have some another type of API. When front end try to call an API like http.localhost 8080 API as doing, the browser block the request due to the course policy, and unless backend allow it. So basically, we have developed an APIs in backend, and now we have shared the API to our front end. Okay, they will basically access from some another application. So when we not allowed the cross origin resource sharing equal to star or write the API, then they will not be able to access the things. Okay, so for that, what we have to do? We have to pass in our controller method this one line of code, cross origin resource, origin equal to your API, or you can also put here star. Star means all APIs will be accessed. So What is a cross origin request? A request, a cross origin request is a request is cross origin when domain is different, means from site A to site B you want to access, from front end to back end you want to access. Then you have different port number, because port number are different for both the front end and back end. Back end you have 800, 8080, front end you have 3000. Protocol is different, HTTP to HTTPS. Then you have to mention this in your controller layer is control layer. The cross, basically cross and security. The cross is not a server side security measures. It is a browser security feature to protect the user from malicious script. Backend will still need a proper authentication and authorization. Okay, where we will use a login logout with the help of system to proper authentication, authorize, and role for authorization. Then we have one more thing, CSRF. It is cross-site request forgery. What is a cross-site request forgery? That is a CSRF is a type of malicious exploit where unauthorized commands are tricked into being performed by a user who is already authenticated in the web application. Basically, with the help of CSRF, the hackers and some any bad person will access your application. Okay, so it abuse the fact that the browser automatically includes the keys like the session ID in the request, and even if the request did not originated from your website, it will access it. So real world example of CSRF attack is like you log in into some uh, application. In background, the session cookies will be basically generated, that will be still activated, and you visit a malicious site. Okay, that consists of some bad feature or bad thing. It is that side doing some bad operation. Okay, as a result what will happen, it will get your JSON ID. Okay, browser send a request to your application with your session cookies, and your money will be transferred. Okay, this so for preventing this, we have to enable CSRF or disable enable CSRF when you are not using a security, and when you are using JWT token, then you have to disable the CSRF. Okay, so this is the thing. Now, today we will develop one employee management application. Okay, in previous classes we have developed student data management application. Okay, now we will develop employee management application. We will do login, log out with the help of a session. Okay. So this all for today's. Now in the next session we will create one a what a employee management application. Okay, where we will create a login, log out, perform different CRUD operation. Okay. So thank you for this session. See you in the next classes where we will start with a new project. Okay. So